When imagination becomes your lifeline, I want to tell you about a conversation that changed the way I think about resilience, imagination, and what it means to survive with grace. Recently, I sat down with Kimberly Hymes, a woman whose life could have been a cautionary tale, but instead became a masterclass in transformation. Kimberly is a 48-year-old single parent raising two young men and two young women. She has navigated homelessness, profound grief, family betrayal, and the kind of pain that would shatter most people into pieces too small to reassemble. And yet here she is, still standing, still choosing, still imagining a tomorrow that looks nothing like yesterday. Her impact on the world isn't measured in accolades or awards. It's measured in the grandchildren she rescued from chaos, in the wisdom she extracted from trauma, in the refusal to let circumstances write the final chapter of her story. Kimberly's message is deceptively simple but radically transformative. Life is what you make it. Keep your imagination alive. And if that doesn't settle into your bones and stay there, I don't know what will. Because here's the thing, we live in a world that teaches Black women, especially, that survival is the ceiling, not the floor. That strength means silence. That softness is a luxury reserved for people who don't have bills stacked like Jenga towers, or babies who need feeding, or trauma that shows up uninvited at 3 in the morning. But Kimberly's life and the lives of the women I'm about to share with you prove otherwise. Imagination isn't escapism. It's not some frivolous daydream you indulge in when life gets easy. Imagination is survival. It's the bridge between where you are and where you're going. It's the audacity to believe that your life can be different, even when everything around you, every voice, every circumstance, every statistic says it can't. Let me take you back to a woman who understood this better than most. Her name was Sarah Breedlove, but the world would come to know her as Madam C.J. Walker. Born in 1867 to formerly enslaved sharecroppers in Louisiana, Sarah was orphaned at 7 years old. 7. She married at 14, became a widow at 20, and was left to raise a baby girl alone. She worked as a washerwoman in segregated St. Louis, scrubbing other people's clothes until her hands cracked and bled, while her own scalp was falling apart from a stress induced ailment that caused severe hair loss. She had every reason to give up, every reason to believe that her life was already written, that poverty and pain were her inheritance stamped and sealed. But Sarah did something radical. She imagined a solution. She didn't have a chemistry degree. She didn't have investors or a business plan or a mentor. She had a problem, a dream, and a willingness to experiment. She mixed formulas in her kitchen, tested them on herself, and eventually created a product that worked. Then she did something even bolder. She sold it door to door. She trained other Black women to sell it too. She built an empire from nothing, becoming America's first self made female millionaire. She didn't just change her life, she changed the economic landscape for thousands of Black women who became her agents, her sales force, her legacy. Madam Walker's story isn't just about hair care, it's about what happens when you refuse to let your circumstances define your imagination. She could have stayed stuck in survival mode, scrubbing clothes until her hands gave out. Instead, she imagined herself as a businesswoman, a philanthropist, a force, and then she made it real. She funded scholarships, she supported the NOACP, she built a factory in Indianapolis, and trained over 40,000 women entrepreneurs. She turned her pain into power, her loss into legacy. She looked at a world that told her she was nothing and said, "Watch me build something that outlasts us all." Now, let's talk about Oprah, because if there's anyone who embodies the idea that imagination is a lifeline, it's her. Born in 1954 in rural Mississippi to an unwed teenage mother, Oprah Gail Winfrey was molested by relatives as a child. She ran away at 14. She gave birth to a baby who died in infancy. She had every reason to believe that her life was over before it started. That trauma would be her story, her ceiling, her end, that the world would swallow her whole and spit out the bones. But Oprah imagined something different. She imagined herself as a storyteller, a voice, a presence that mattered. She pitched bold ideas in a broadcasting industry that didn't want her, that didn't see her, that actively worked to keep her out. She built a brand rooted in empathy and emotional honesty at a time when vulnerability was considered weakness. And she became one of the most influential women in the world. The Oprah Winfrey Show reached 40 million viewers weekly. She launched a book club that sold over 2 million copies per episode. She built her own network. She opened the Leadership Academy for Girls in South Africa, giving young women the education and opportunities she never had. She turned her pain into a platform that gave millions of people permission to heal, to speak, to be seen. Oprah didn't just survive her trauma, she transformed it. She used her imagination to rewrite the script, to protect the next generation, to build something that would outlast her. And that's what Kimberly Hymes is doing too, staying with her daughter to rescue her grandchildren, even when it means enduring abuse from her own grown kids. Choosing to see life's tests as lessons, not punishments. Recognizing that how you handle the growing pains is the real test, and choosing wisely even when it's hard, even when it hurts, even when no one is watching or applauding or acknowledging the quiet heroism of just getting up one more day. Then there's Ursula Burns. Born in 1958 in the New York City projects to a single mother who sewed at home to make ends meet, Ursula grew up watching her mother hustle, sacrifice, and imagine a better life for her children. And she carried that imagination with her like a torch in the dark. She went to Columbia University for engineering, a field that didn't welcome Black women, a field that looked at her and saw an anomaly, not a future leader. She faced racism and sexism at every turn. She became a mother herself and had to balance work and life in a corporate world that didn't care about her struggles, her sacrifices, her humanity. But Ursula imagined herself at the top. She networked boldly. She innovated. She took risks that would have terrified most people. And in 2009, she became the first Black woman CEO of a Fortune 500 company, Xerox. She grew the company's revenue, oversaw deals worth over $6 billion, dollars, doubled the market cap, and served on boards at Uber and ExxonMobil. She didn't just break the glass ceiling, she shattered it into a million pieces and then mentored other Black girls in STEM so they could walk through the wreckage and claim their own seats at the table. Ursula's story is proof that imagination isn't just about dreaming, it's about doing. It's about making wise choices in the face of tests. It's about protecting your peace and your future, even when the world tells you that you don't deserve either, even when the world tells you to be grateful for scraps. So, what do Madam Walker, Oprah, and Ursula Burns have in common? They all faced unimaginable loss. They all navigated poverty, abuse, and systemic barriers designed to keep them small. They all could have stayed stuck in survival mode and no one would have blamed them, but they didn't. They kept their imagination alive. They made life what they wanted it to be, not what it was handed to them as. And that's the lesson Kimberly Hymes is teaching us too. Because here's the truth, life will test you. It will throw you curveballs that feel like knockout punches. It will ask you to carry more than you think you can hold. It will put you in situations where the easy choice is to give up, to accept the abuse, to let the pain win. But the real test isn't whether you avoid the pain, it's how you choose to handle it. It's whether you let it define you or refine you. It's whether you keep your imagination alive even when everything around you's falling apart, even when your hands are empty and your heart is heavy and the road ahead looks impossible. Kimberly said something that stuck with me like a splinter I couldn't remove. She said, "What you go through in life is only for you to recognize something you've encountered and now are aware of, to avoid and learn." That's how that person is. Growing pains, how you choose to handle these things is the test. Choose wisely. That's not just advice, that's a blueprint. That's the difference between surviving and thriving, between repeating cycles and breaking them, between staying stuck and stepping into your soft girl era. And let's be clear, softness isn't weakness. Softness is the radical act of choosing yourself, of setting boundaries, of saying no without guilt, of resting without explanation. Softness is what happens when you stop wearing the superwoman cape and start living as your whole, healed human self. Softness is what Kimberly is choosing when she rescues her grandchildren, even in the midst of her own homelessness. Softness is what Madam Walker chose when she built a business that empowered other women instead of hoarding her success. Softness is what Oprah chose when she used her platform to heal, not just entertain. Softness is what Ursula chose when she mentored the next generation instead of pulling the ladder up behind her. So here's what I want you to do. Not tomorrow, not when things settle down. Right now, I want you to write down one impossible vision for your life, not a goal, not a to do list, a vision, something that feels so big, so audacious, so out of reach that it scares you a little. Maybe it's financial freedom. Maybe it's healing a relationship that's been broken for years. Maybe it's starting a business. Maybe it's just waking up happy without the weight of everyone else's expectations crushing your chest before your feet hit the floor. Write it down, make it real on paper. And then take one wise action this week. One boundary, one no, one step toward protecting your peace and your future, because life is what you make it. And your imagination is the most powerful tool you have. It's the bridge between survival and thriving. It's the lifeline that pulls you out of the darkness and into the light. It's the audacity to believe that you deserve softness, rest, joy, and freedom without guilt, without apology, and without explanation. Kimberly Hymes is living proof of that. And so are Madam Walker, Oprah, and Ursula Burns. They didn't wait for permission, they didn't wait for perfect circumstances. They imagined a better life and then they made it real. And you can too. The world will tell you to be realistic, to play it safe, to accept what you've been given and be grateful for it. But I'm telling you something different. I'm telling you to be unrealistic, to be audacious, to imagine a life so beautiful, so whole, so free that it makes other people uncomfortable. Because that discomfort, that's not your problem, that's theirs. Your job is to keep your imagination alive, to choose wisely when life tests you, and to step into your soft girl era, not because you've earned it, but because it was always yours to claim. So go, imagine, build, protect, rest. And when the world asks you how you did it, tell them the truth. Tell them you refused to let your circumstances write your story. Tell them you kept your imagination alive, and tell them that softness, real softness, is the bravest thing a woman can choose. Now go make your life what you want it to be. The world is waiting.